Hey there, friends. What can you do to stop your parents from divorcing? This comes to me and us from a viewer. Here's a little bit of background. He's a grown man living independently from his parents, and his parents, who have been married for over 30 years, looks like they're going to get divorced. And he says, what can I do about it? I can see my father's faults, what he has to work on, why it's not working, and I can see my mother's faults, what she needs to work on in order to make it work. How can I get them to work on this stuff so that their marriage can last? Well, the best I have is my delusional opinion. And here's my delusional opinion, which will probably be the most unpopular, uninspiring opinion there could be on the matter, which is this. My take is there's nothing you can do. We know the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink it. I don't even think you can lead a horse to water. I think they're a powerful animal. They're not going to go there if they don't want to. So I'll run some horse experiments and actually get back to you with conclusive evidence on the horses and leading them to water. But for now, taking the wisdom of that saying, what if it is true that there is nothing you can do to save your parents' marriage? And of course, why do we want to save our parents' marriage? There is a very deep, primordial sense of fear and pain that comes up when our parents are breaking up, whether they're breaking up when we're 4 years old, before we're born, or in this case when you're an adult. Even though you're an adult living independently of your parents, this deep primordial sense of fear, it gets struck, and we want to react to it, and we want to make that fear go away. So we create a solution in our mind that gives us hope that the fear can go away. And the solution that gives us hope in this case is, I can save my parents' marriage. I just got to figure out how to do it, how to make it possible. But I think what we're really saying is, I'm trying to make this god-awful, uncomfortable, primordial fear go away. How do I do that? I don't think we do. It is very much human nature for us to have this deep fear chord struck when our parents split apart. We came into this world, and our parents really were our world. They were much more of our world we were associated with than planet Earth was, or our community. So it's like our world is being split apart, and that's unnerving. It triggers our self-preservation response. So part of us kind of actually does react to parents divorcing as though our life depends on it. It's kind of like we will sacrifice ourselves in order to save the world of that mom and dad create together. And I've got to save that world to save me. And if I've got to sacrifice myself to save the world to save me, even though that's not logical, my only way to survive is sacrifice my own well-being, my life, to save the world, which will then save my life. It's not necessarily logical, but that's because of a deep fear. It's an emotional experience, not a logical experience. So that's normal. It's normal to have a fear like this and react. And I think the best we can do, in my experience, is look the fear in the eyes, become intimate with it, know it's there, know what we're dealing with, so we don't waste a lot of misdirected effort and energy trying to take on mission impossible that inevitably just piles on more suffering on top of us because we wear ourselves out, we feel like we're not enough to save their marriage when we're trying to save their marriage. Because it is, in fact, in my opinion, mission impossible. With that said, my takeaway so far, if I'm listening to what I'm saying, is I'd invite you to give yourself permission to feel for the fear, feel around for it. It's probably not just blatantly on the surface. feel underneath yourself, inside for the fear. Once you feel for it, do your best to be connected with it and feel it. And with that said, I would also guess no matter what I say to you, what you say to you, part of you will probably still try and save your parents' marriage. We could say, hey, it's a great, we could even say it's a perfect idea to not save their marriage. I have all these rational reasons why it's not a good idea, why I can see it won't work, why it'll just cause more suffering on me, maybe more suffering on them. But part of us would still do it. Remember, for a deep part of us, like our most inner of all inner children's, its world is being split apart. So part of us probably will take on Mission Impossible anyway, even though we know it's not possible. And in that case, I'd ask you to just be aware. When you are taking on Mission Impossible, be aware of it. It causes a lot of stress and constriction, suffering inside when we take on Mission Impossible and we don't know it. Because it's impossible to accomplish Mission Impossible, which is inherently stressful. But when we've taken on the mission without knowing it, it's stress times 2. So be in the stressful situation. Know how you're participating in it. See what you're trying to do to save your parents' marriage. And do your best to have realistic expectations. Part of me is trying to save it, and another part of me knows it's probably not going to work. Back to our fears and our pain. Can we feel them? I remember from my childhood, my parents went through a split, ended up not divorcing, but during the split, it's okay, we're going to get divorced, and me and my sister were okay. We're told Mom and Dad are getting divorced. And looking back on that with my eyes of today, I can see all the things that I was doing to try and hold my world together. Because if my world falls apart, then emotionally speaking, I feel like there's nothing solid for me to stand on. If there's no solid ground for me to stand on, then how will I survive? Says the emotional reality of the experience, at least for me. And at the time, being when I was 7 or 8 years old, I couldn't recognize how I was trying to save their marriage, hold my world together. But with my adult eyes of today, looking back on child JP, I can see it. I mostly tried to save their marriage by repressing the parts of me that I thought were a pain in the butt for Mom. Mom and Dad, repressing my emotions. Mom and Dad are challenged, so I don't want to give them my challenging emotions, my pain and suffering, because that'll just make these burdened people more burdensome, which will cause them to break apart more, says my illogical emotional logic of child JP. So I learned to hide immense parts of myself, believing that it would make Mom and Dad's life easier, believing that was the key to holding my world, their marriage together. The benefit you and I have, if you and I are in fact adults, I question that myself personally, but if you're an adult, I'll question me, you can be sure you're an adult if that's what you are. Benefit we have as adults experiencing the breakup of our parents' marriage is we can see what our child self never would be able to see. A child going through the breakup of parents, there's only so much they can see. They only have child faculties. So we as adults have more potential to not lose ourselves as much anyway. Last little bit of information that I'd share with you is part of you based on the inquiry I got, part of you creates the story that says, I know what the problems are on Dad's side. I know what the problems are on Mom's side. Therefore, I see a solution, theoretically, how this could be mended. I'd ask you to pretend that you're completely delusional about that. What if it's necessary for your reactive mind to create a story that says, I've identified the problem, and therefore convince itself you've identified the problem. so that it can therefore have the hope that there is a solution. So it doesn't have to feel the hopelessness of the world crumbling as you've known it, which, as you've known it your whole life, is mom and dad together. So the reason why I ask you to question, your identification of what the problems are, question what if that's just a delusional story you create. We look at that and question it so you don't have to torment yourself with it as much. In other words, here's the invitation to do your best to not believe everything you think. I would guess that mom and dad's marriage their issues run far deeper than what you can recognize. Probably runs far deeper than what they can recognize. If they have inspiration to work on their marriage, it's got to come from inside them. It's inspiration, not outside inspiration through you. And of course, a challenged marriage after 30 some years, even if the inspiration comes from within, it's still a big challenge to find the intimacy again. And then lastly, I think I already said lastly, but I lied. Here's the last thought I'd share. By the time your parents' marriage ends, if in fact it does, it probably ended far before you think it ended. In other words, the world has probably already fallen apart. It just takes mom and dad a few years, if not a couple decades, to realize their marriage ended, and now we'll go through the motions of getting divorced. I personally find so many couples, the relationship dies before they're divorced. It's kind of like a several year afterwards reaction. Oh, now we get divorced after the organism of the relationship dies. Most of all, my friend, it's tough. It is a place of pain. It's a place of losing the familiarity of everything that you've known within the dynamic of your family. It feels like your world, my experience, it feels like your world is falling apart. Logically, we know it's not. Emotionally speaking, part of us has the fear as though the world is falling apart. The best we can do is allow that to be, allow our feelings of it to be, rather than trying to repress our feelings under the guise of attempts to do Mission Impossible of save mom and dad's marriage. That all probably boils down to my pain is so painful that I don't want to feel it. We as kids, and we're all kids of our parents, we are 100% helpless about the integrity of their relationship. A lot of us have sold ourselves stories that say otherwise. Yet it is my opinion that we are 100% helpless about the integrity of their relationship. With that said, I appreciate you entertaining this food for thought. My hope is you found something meaningful to help yourself through a challenging time.